This story is a work of fiction created for entertainment purposes only. While it includes fictionalized versions of members of Sidemen and other real individuals, the events, locations, conversations, and characters portrayed in this story are entirely fictional and do not represent real-life actions, personalities, or experiences. Any resemblance to actual events is purely coincidental.
Bro, that is dead content. JJ threw the marker onto the table dramatically while everyone else laughed. You say that about every idea, Simon replied, leaning back in his chair. Because your ideas are always dead. Millions of views say otherwise. Views don't mean quality. Your boxing videos exist. The room exploded instantly. Harry nearly fell off the couch laughing, while Ethan pointed at JJ like he'd just witnessed murder. That was cold. See, JJ said proudly. Natural entertainer. You cried over a spider last week, Vic muttered. The whiteboard standing beside the table was already full of crossed-out video ideas. Last to leave the forest, 24 hours inside a haunted hotel, hide and seek in a cemetery. And now, written messily in black marker across the middle, Project 563. Still sounds like a government experiment, Ethan said. That's why it's good, Simon replied. The idea was simple. Visit strange abandoned places connected through an online conspiracy forum people called 563. Nobody actually knew what 563 meant, but every location connected to it had weird stories. Missing tunnels, closed stations, buildings removed from maps. Most people online thought it was fake, which obviously made the group want to film it more. Harry grabbed the marker and added beneath the title, Places That Shouldn't Exist. Okay, that's hard, Toby admitted. Josh looked up for the first time in nearly 10 minutes. Not at the board, at the name. His expression changed slightly. Tiny, but enough. Simon noticed. You all right? Yeah. Quick answer. Too quick. Josh stood and walked toward the whiteboard. There's one place we should add. He uncapped the marker slowly, then wrote, MacGrover Central Station. The room went quiet for a second. Station? JJ frowned. What even is that? Old transport station, Josh replied casually. Shut down years ago. Vic pulled out his phone instantly. Wait, I've actually heard about that. Harry looked over his shoulder. Why does every creepy place look wet in photos? The image on Vic's screen showed an enormous concrete building hidden behind rusted gates and warning signs. Most of the windows were black, dead. A faded government logo barely remained above the entrance. Property closed by order of the city. Looks cursed, Ethan decided. Looks perfect, Simon said. Josh stayed unusually quiet while everyone talked over each other again, because unlike the others, he already knew MacGrover wasn't abandoned. An hour later, equipment cases covered the floor. Cameras, lights, backup batteries, microphones. Harry had somehow packed snacks instead of spare cables. Useful member of society, Simon muttered. Survival first. Their cameramen, Con and James, adjusted the handheld rigs nearby. Unlike the others, they rarely talked much on camera, but they noticed everything. Always behind the lens, always watching. Battery on this one drains weirdly, Con said casually while checking the screen, especially near old buildings. JJ blinked. That sentence sounds haunted. Con shrugged. Just saying. Josh looked toward the camera for a second too long, then away again. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. Nobody noticed the lights flicker, except Josh. And for the first time all evening, he looked nervous. Rain hammered against the pavement outside, while equipment bags were carried toward the cars. Simon slammed the trunk shut before looking around. Everyone got everything? Probably, Ethan replied. That is not reassuring. JJ pulled his hood over his head dramatically while staring up at the rain. Why does every bad decision happen during weather like this? Because sunshine ruins horror aesthetics, Harry replied while throwing another bag into the backseat. You lot are laughing now, JJ continued, but when some demon train eats us, remember I warned everyone. You try to vlog the demon first, Vic said. Content never stops. Con walked past carrying another camera case, while James checked batteries beneath the shelter outside the building. Josh stood slightly apart from the others. Quiet again. The station photo still glowed faintly on his phone screen. Rainwater reflected across it strangely. For a second, the building almost looked different. Bigger. Then the screen went black. Josh? He looked up immediately. Simon tossed him a flashlight. You coming, or what? Josh caught it automatically. Yeah. But even now, he kept glancing toward the darkness beyond the streets. Rain hammered against the windows of Simon's car as it rolled through the empty streets. Remind me again, Ethan muttered from the back seat, why we always end up in places where people definitely got murdered. Nobody got murdered, Simon replied instantly. That confidence means absolutely nothing. Harry snorted from beside the window, drawing random shapes into the fogged-up glass. Nah, this is calm. Worst case scenario, we find a ghost. Best case scenario, JJ gets possessed. I'd make possession look cold, JJ said proudly. You already act possessed, Vic added, without looking up from his phone. JJ gasped dramatically. See, this is why I'm the victim of the group. From the passenger seat, Toby smiled quietly. Hood pulled over his head as rain tapped softly against the roof. The only person not laughing was Josh. He sat near the back, staring out the window, silent, watching. The closer they got to MacGrover Station, the quieter he became. Simon noticed immediately. You good? Josh blinked once, like he'd forgotten everyone else was there. Yeah. Short answer. Too short. Harry leaned over the seat. You've been weird all week, by the way. More weird than usual, Ethan added. Josh forced a small laugh, but his eyes drifted back outside almost instantly. Rain blurred the distant shape of the station ahead. At first, it just looked abandoned. Concrete walls, broken windows, rusted fences disappearing into darkness. But the closer they drove, the stranger the road became. The city lights slowly vanished behind them, until the only thing left was the sound of rain hitting the cars and the low hum of tires against wet asphalt. Even the trees looked wrong. Not scary, just unfamiliar. Their branches twisted strangely, almost silver beneath the headlights, leaves darker than normal, moving even when the wind stopped. Harry stared out the window. Why do those trees look AI-generated? No, literally, Ethan agreed. What is that? JJ squinted dramatically. If one of them starts moving, I'm pushing Vic out first. Why me? You look survivable. That is not a compliment. From the second car behind them, flashes of light flickered through the rain as Con and James filmed through the windows. James lowered the camera slightly. You lot notice there's been no other cars for like 10 minutes? Simon glanced into the rearview mirror. He was right. The road behind them was completely empty. No headlights, no movement, nothing. We're near an abandoned station, JJ replied. Not exactly a tourist attraction. Still, something about the silence felt strange. Not uncomfortable, just different. Like the world around them had gone quieter than it should have. Josh kept staring ahead, watching the station grow larger through the rain. His fingers tapped nervously against his knee. Toby noticed immediately. You sure this place is safe? Josh answered too fast. Probably. Simon laughed once. That's not convincing at all. Confidence inspires people. No, Vic said. Facts do. JJ pointed at Vic instantly. This is why nobody invites you to motivational speeches. 10 minutes later, both cars rolled to a stop outside MacGrover Central Station. The building was enormous, far bigger than it looked in photos. Long concrete walls stretched endlessly behind rusted fencing, covered in warning signs and dead vines. Some windows were shattered. Others looked completely black, like light disappeared inside them. Above the entrance hung an old, faded government symbol, barely visible beneath years of rain and dirt. MacGrover Central Transit Authority. Okay, Ethan stepped out slowly. Nah. Rain dripped from the hood of his jacket as he stared upward. This place definitely has bodies buried underneath it. Positive mindset, Simon replied. Con filmed slowly across the front gates, while James adjusted one of the shoulder rigs. The gates themselves were chained shut. Massive metal locks held the entrance closed. No way in. Harry walked closer carefully. Wait, what's that? Near the entrance sat an old glass-covered display board bolted beside the gates. Inside it was a faded map of the station, surrounded by warnings and evacuation notices. But across the middle of the glass, Someone had scratched a strange symbol deeply into it. A circle, crossed by 3 uneven lines. Josh froze for half a second, then immediately looked away. Vic noticed. Again, you keep doing that. Josh frowned. Doing what? Looking like you know things. JJ gasped dramatically. He's the killer! For the love of God, Simon sighed. Josh shook his head casually. I just searched the place before we came. Bro researched abandoned stations for fun, Harry muttered. That is genuinely concerning. Some people have hobbies. Normal hobbies exist. Rain continued falling softly around them. Toby stared toward the trees surrounding the station. Something about them bothered him. Not fear, just a strange feeling in his chest he couldn't explain, like the area was waiting. James suddenly lowered his camera. Hold on. Everyone looked at him. What? Josh pointed toward the side of the property fence. There's a road over there. Hidden beside the station, nearly invisible beneath overgrown trees and collapsed fencing, was a narrow path, disappearing into darkness behind the building. Simon frowned. That wasn't on the map. Josh already started walking toward it. Too naturally. Too confidently. Ethan exchanged a look with Harry instantly. How do you keep finding these things? Josh didn't turn around. Research. Quick answer again. But this time, even Simon looked slightly suspicious. JJ pulled his hood tighter and started following anyway. If we die, he announced loudly, I'm haunting all of you, specifically. No, Vic replied immediately. You'd be an annoying ghost. I'd be a legendary ghost. You'd get exorcised within 10 minutes. Harry laughed as they followed the narrow road beside the station fence, their shoes splashing through puddles while Con and James filmed from behind. The further they walked, the stranger the area felt. Not haunted, not dangerous, just disconnected. The sounds of the city were completely gone now. No distant traffic, no sirens, nothing except rain dripping from trees and the occasional crunch of gravel beneath their shoes. Even the air felt colder here. Ahead, the narrow road curved behind the station and revealed another entrance, hidden behind enormous overgrown hedges and broken fencing. Smaller than the main gate, older too. A faded security booth leaned sideways beside it, nearly swallowed by vines, and unlike the front entrance, this gate wasn't chained shut. It was simply closed. Everyone slowed down. Simon frowned slightly. Okay, wait. Josh stopped walking. For the first time since arriving, even he looked uncertain. This is technically breaking into government property now, Ethan said. We crossed technically like 20 minutes ago, Harry replied. No, but this feels more illegal. JJ stared at the gate dramatically. You know what's funny? In horror films, this is always the moment black characters leave. You say that every time, Simon sighed. Because survival matters. Con lowered the camera slightly. Are we even supposed to film this part? James nodded toward the rusted warning signs nearby. Private property, no entry. Authorized personnel only. That's literally what makes the video good, Harry said instantly. Simon rubbed rainwater from his face and looked at the others. Realistically, we probably shouldn't go in. Nobody moved. Even JJ stayed quiet for once. The station sat silently behind the gate, watching, waiting. Then Josh spoke, calmly. We came all the way here for this. Everyone looked at him. He kept his voice casual. We've got 3 days before Sunday. We still need a full video, edits, thumbnails, everything. Simon hesitated slightly. Josh continued before anyone could interrupt. It's just an abandoned station. We film for an hour, maybe 2, then leave. You say that like this place doesn't look like it eats people. Ethan muttered. Josh laughed lightly this time. Bro, it's rain, concrete, and bad architecture. Relax. That sounded weirdly rehearsed, Vic said. Josh ignored him completely. Simon looked back toward the gate again, then sighed. He's right. JJ threw both hands into the air dramatically. See? This is how every documentary starts before 30 people vanish. You're still walking in, though, Harry pointed out. Because I'm brave. You screamed at a goose. That goose moved aggressively. Even Toby laughed quietly at that. The tension eased slightly. Just enough. Simon pointed toward Con and James. Keep filming everything, yeah? Already are, James replied. Con adjusted the camera focus toward the gate. Rainwater slid slowly down the rusted metal. as Josh stepped forward first and pushed it open. The hinges groaned loudly. A deep metallic sound echoed somewhere beyond the station grounds. Nobody reacted immediately, but Toby looked up slowly, because for a second, he could have sworn that sound came from underground. Toby glanced up slowly, his brow furrowed. "Did you guys hear that? It sounded like a noise from underground." Everyone paused. For a second, the only sound was rain dripping off the roof. Vic tilted his head, then said, "Yeah, I did. But it could just be pipes or something old." Then after a beat, he added, "Wait, also those trees look weird. I've never seen trees like that here." Simon nodded. "Yeah, it could be just the atmosphere. It's an abandoned place after all, but it still feels off." Harry grinned, trying to keep it light. "Well, if a tree starts walking and gives me a tour, I'll ask it for directions to the nearest Starbucks." Khan kept filming, capturing their casual banter as they walked deeper. Even though they joked, there was still a weight to the air. Something about this place just didn't feel right, even if they couldn't quite put their finger on it. They moved down the cracked corridor, each step echoing a bit too long. JJ raised his hand like a teacher. "Class, remember, if we disappear, it's because we didn't listen to JJ's survival tips." Ethan laughed. "Yeah, but you get lost in them all, so I'm not sure how reliable that is." Simon nodded slowly, glancing at the walls. "We keep it quick, just a few shots, stay sharp." Toby stepped closer to him, voice low. "Wait, did you feel that? It's like the floor shifted, or something moved under us." Simon paused, narrowing his eyes at the cracked tiles. "Yeah, I see it. It's subtle, but the floor definitely dips there." Harry grinned, trying to lighten it up. Maybe the station's got a dance floor we didn't know about. But Josh cut in, more serious now. "Guys, we don't have time to overthink it. We have to get these shots. Fast." Simon nodded, giving Toby a quick glance, and both stayed a step ahead, leading the group toward the old platform as the weight of the place pressed a little closer around them. The corridor opened into a massive underground platform, the ceiling stretching high above them in darkness. Not a train platform. At least, it didn't feel like one. The place was too wide, too empty. Old benches sat overturned near cracked concrete pillars, and faded signs hung loosely from the ceiling. Level B, East Access Platform 4. Most of the letters had almost disappeared with age. Khan slowly lifted the camera, filming across the enormous underground space, while James walked beside him, capturing wider shots. "Okay," JJ admitted quietly, "this is actually kind of hard." "Your vocabulary is incredible," Vic replied instantly. "You understood me, though." "That's unfortunately true." Harry walked a little ahead, near the edge of the platform, before stopping. "Yo, where are the tracks?" Everyone moved closer. Below the platform wasn't a railway, just darkness. A huge concrete drop, disappearing endlessly beneath the station. No tracks, no wires, nothing. Ethan frowned immediately. "That makes absolutely no sense." Simon crouched carefully near the edge, staring downward. "Maybe they removed everything." "Why would they remove an entire railway?" Toby asked softly. Nobody answered. The silence settled strangely around them. Not threatening, not frightening, but deeply unnatural, like the station itself was paying attention. Khan adjusted the camera slightly. The screen flickered once. Then again, battery glitch, he muttered. James checked his own camera. "Mine just did it too." JJ pointed dramatically. "See? Haunted." "You want every building to be haunted," Harry laughed, "because it improves the video." Simon stood up again slowly. "All right, we get a few more shots, then we leave." Josh nodded quickly. "Yeah, too quickly." Toby noticed. Vic noticed too. But after another few minutes, the tension slowly eased again. Nobody said it out loud, but they all felt slightly stupid for panicking. It was just an abandoned station. A weird one, but still just a station. Harry stretched his arms dramatically. "See? We're alive." JJ was preparing his ghost speech for nothing. JJ looked disappointed. "You lot ruin all my character development." Ethan laughed while looking around the platform again. "Honestly though, we've probably got enough footage already." Simon nodded. "Yeah, we can make this work." Vic was already thinking ahead. "We just cut the boring walking parts and explain some of the weird stuff during editing." "Add creepy music," JJ suggested proudly. We are not adding horror violin sounds, Simon replied instantly. Coward. Khan lowered his camera slightly. We filmed like 20 minutes already. That's enough for half the video. Exactly, Harry agreed. The rest is just Simon staring at walls professionally. I observe details. You observe concrete. Even Toby laughed quietly at that. The atmosphere finally started feeling lighter again. Normal. Almost. Simon clapped his hands once. All right, let's head out before this place gives Ethan another conspiracy theory. I already have 3. Nobody surprised. The group slowly started walking back the way they came, footsteps echoing softly across the platform. Khan filmed casually, while James talked quietly with Ethan near the back. Nobody noticed Josh had stopped walking. He stood near the platform edge again, watching the darkness below. Completely still. Toby turned back first. Josh? No response. Then, something moved near the far wall. Not clearly, just enough movement to disturb the bushes growing through the cracked concrete. The leaves shifted slowly, then harder, like something had pushed through them. Simon frowned immediately. There's no wind down here. The movement stopped. Silence. Then the bushes shook violently, and Josh suddenly shouted, We need to get out of here.